What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with MMA community reacts to Khamzat Chimaev footage. Khamzat Chimaev's next fight continues to remain a mystery after the UFC 297 main event clash between Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. While Chimaev was insistent prior to the bout that he would be fighting the winner, du Plessis has made it clear pre-fight that if he won, Chimaev won't be getting a crack at the belt. With the fight between du Plessis and Israel Adesanya likely next up for the newly crowned champ, it's remained unclear who Chimaev will fight next. In the meantime, the undefeated contender has continued to train in a gym, as seen in some recent footage of pad work. Fans were quick to weigh in on the footage with mixed reactions. As one fan wrote, "I just feel like this is the easiest fight in the division for Whitaker." Another poked fun at Chimaev's cardio, writing, "One combo like this and he's done for the whole round." One fan seemed to agree, writing, "His next opponent will be his cardio." One member of the MMA community dropped a prediction for Chimaev's next fight, writing, "Cannonier will end the hype." Despite that, some were impressed by Chimaev, with one member of the MMA community adding, "His striking looks better in every clip. Still has a way to go, but his hands on transitions to kicks are looking very crisp." Another offered Chimaev some constructive criticism, writing, "Bro needs to work on some head movement. The blitz striking only gonna get you so far. Pavlovich is a prime example." While the reactions to the footage were mixed, one fan summed things up by writing, "Ready to see him fight in 2026. With plenty of exciting fights to be made at 185 pounds, there's no shortage of potential fights for the undefeated contender." Next up, let's take a look at Tom Aspinall reveals next UFC fight. With the door closed on a potential fight with either Stipe Miocic or Jon Jones, when the heavyweight champ is ready to return to action, Tom Aspinall has now shifted his focus to defending his interim title. After Miocic turned down a fight at UFC 300, Aspinall spoke in an interview with TNT Sports, where he shed light on what the remainder of 2024 may look like for him. Given that he would be forced to sit on the sidelines for quite some time if he were to wait for the Jones vs. Miocic fight to play out, he's targeting a return over the summer in hopes of remaining active.
Blades has got a fight coming up against Almeida. I technically have a loss to Blades in the UFC. I would like to get that one back, and that's what makes sense for me personally right now. So I'm hearing some strong rumours from some reliable sources that's going to happen. So like I say, if Blades take care of business, which he should, me and him in Manchester would be the best thing. I guess if Almeida wins, I guess that makes sense as well. Do you know, I mean, ultimately I think it's pretty obvious. I feel like I should be fighting for the undisputed next, but if it's not going to happen, I'm not going to wait forever.
As Aspinall mentioned, he technically has a loss to Curtis Blades as the result of an injury in their 2022 meeting. Since then, Blades has fought just once, losing to Sergey Pavlovich in April of 2023. On the flip side, Jailton Almeida remains undefeated in the UFC, rattling off 6 wins since signing with the promotion. With the winner likely to fight for the interim belt, the stakes couldn't be higher heading into UFC 299. Next up, let's take a look at Max Holloway reveals the truth on Justin Gaethje fight. Heading into UFC 298, Ilia Topuria made it clear that if he defeats Alexander Volkanovski, he would like to compete against Max Holloway in his first title defense. Given that, many fans assumed that Holloway would wait to see how things played out in February before booking his next fight. Recently, however, UFC CEO Dana White stunned fans with exciting news of a BMF title fight between Holloway and Justin Gaethje for UFC 300. During a recent interview with MMA Fighting, Holloway opened up on the booking.
It just kind of happened, I guess. You know, I kind of said that in October. I know, and then we saw the interview with Gaethje saying that kind of stuff. Gaethje's a cool guy, bro. You know, at the end of the day, but with me coming off my 2 fights, my 2 last fights, my 2 recent fights with Arnold and Korean, them having to announce that the 45 title fight was happening with someone else, that put me in a situation. And then I saw the 55 title got announced at that time was Oliveira and Islam. With him having the BMF belt, I was like, you know, why not? You know, why wait around?
As Holloway indicated in a separate interview earlier this month, with a win over Gaethje at UFC 300, a lot of doors are going to be open for him. Should Ilia Topuria defeat Alexander Volkanovski, Holloway could contest for the featherweight title. On the flip side, with a dominant performance, he could also find himself in the mix for a crack at the lightweight title as well. Next, let's take a look at George St Pierre shuts down UFC 300 rumors. George St Pierre has repeatedly been mentioned as a fighter who fans believe could return to the UFC for the promotion's historic UFC 300 card in April, while fighters like Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar have also been mentioned as fighters who could potentially return. Neither has continued to seek out competition like St Pierre has. Late last year, for example, the former two-division champ was expected to compete in a grappling match, which led many fans to believe that the next logical step would be a big return at UFC 300. According to St Pierre, that won't be the case. Speaking in a recent Q&A at Bang Tao Muay Thai in Thailand, he shut the door on a UFC 300 return.
It's a rumor, never been for a fight, and I made that clear that I have no desire of coming back to fight in mixed martial art. I miss sometimes the adrenaline, the victory. When you win a fight, it's like there's nothing that can come close to that. And unfortunately, I will probably never have that feeling. I will never have that feeling again of, winning another champion. And I miss that feeling. But that's the reality, and I'm good with it. I have to accept it.
The comments from the arguable greatest of all time echo those made by Dana White recently, where he shut down talk of the UFC bringing back St Pierre, Lesnar, or Rousey for the UFC 300 card. With his best years behind him, it sounds as though the door is officially closed to a GSP return in the future. Next, let's take a look at Chris Curtis reveals UFC plan. After a big win over Marc-Andre Barriault at UFC 297, Chris Curtis has his sights set on a main event spot at the UFC Apex. While many fans and fighters have expressed frustration over the UFC continuing to host events at the Apex, Curtis has taken the opposite stance. Speaking in an appearance on MMA Junkie Radio, he made his case for a 5-round main event at the UFC Apex against either a middleweight or a welterweight.
I haven't made 170 in 3 years, so it'll be interesting to see what they say. I don't know if I can do that yet. But even at 85, they're still like, actually, I don't even know who's in the division really. Like, there's like Paul Craig's like right above me, whatever. Regardless, I don't really care who. I just want to fight. Like, guys, so everyone hates the Apex, right? I like the Apex. I have no issue with the Apex. I've fought everyone you've asked me to fight. Like, I've done well in most of them. Like, let me main event an Apex card. I'm totally happy. Let me main event an Apex card.
After fighting twice in 2023 and 3 times in 2022, it's safe to say that following his win over Marc-Andre Barriault at UFC 297, Curtis is likely to fight at least one more time this year, assuming he remains healthy. With the door open to a return to 170, there's certainly no shortage of fights for the action man. Next, let's take a look at Kayla Harrison making huge mistake according to UFC fighter. Kayla Harrison's decision to part ways with the PFL and sign with the UFC has continued to be a hot source of debate among the MMA community. While many fans are excited to see the Olympian make her octagon debut, others are skeptical about her cut down to 135 pounds, given that she reigned as the PFL lightweight champion and primarily competed at 78 kilos or 171.9 pounds during her judo career. Former women's bantamweight champion Miesha Tate is one of the skeptics, as she believes that cutting an extra 20 pounds to compete at bantamweight will drain the famed judoka. During a recent appearance on SiriusXM, Tate shared her thoughts.
I know she's made 145 before. I think it was tough for her. I think 135 is going to really suck the life out of her. And it's not the best move. And I guess I'm speaking from personal experience, because when I went down to 125, although I did it, and I still had a pretty decent camp, I just didn't perform at my best. And I think Kayla is really used to being like such a big, strong woman that she won't have that on her side, and I'm really curious to see how that's going to benefit her.
As Tate mentioned, she knows firsthand just how difficult cutting an extra 10 pounds can be. Much like TJ Dillashaw in his journey down to 125, Tate's flyweight debut back in 2022 resulted in a lopsided loss to Lauren Murphy, where the former champ seemed unable to find her rhythm. Since returning to bantamweight, however, she's already racked up an impressive submission win over Julia Avila, which earned her Performance of the Night honors. Whether the same fate will befall Harrison, only time will tell. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at Joe Rogan offers solution to $1.6 billion lawsuit against UFC. The Lee v. Zuffa suit against the UFC is set to go to trial in April, with fighters who competed in the UFC between December 16, 2010 and June 30, 2017, all eligible to take part of the historic suit. Leading up to the start of the trial, a number of documents have been made public, which shed light on the UFC's business practices. While it's unclear just how significant of an impact the suit will have on the UFC, there's a possibility of the promotion having to pay out up to $1.6 billion to the fighters who participate. In the meantime, Joe Rogan offered a solution of his own to one of the biggest gripes fighters have. losing money by not being able to represent sponsors on their shorts. He spoke during a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience.
The Reebok thing, that there's a real argument there, right? It's like you all of a sudden take away the fighter's ability to have ads. And that was one of the things that I knew from you, that you had more money in sponsors for your shorts or for the fight week than you did from your purse.
Correct.
Here's the solution that I thought of. Get a bunch of people that are interested in sponsoring the UFC. Approve them. Approve all those people and say, this is our list of fighters. Who would you like to work with? Maybe it would be more lucrative for everybody if you just had a bunch of sponsors.
Rogan's solution would also help to ease some of the frustration among fighters regarding deals like the UFC's agreement with Project Rock, which doesn't include payouts for fighters. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.